Hello, Calm parents. Welcome back to Parenting Teens with Dr. Cam, where we share practical tips, useful insight, and words of encouragement to help you have a peaceful, positive relationship with your teen and parent from a place of calm. I'm Dr. Cam, your host, and today I'm joined by Sam, a professional speaker, lifestyle coach, and personal trainer in long-term recovery from substance use disorder. He uses his personal experiences with drugs, alcohol, depression, anxiety, suicidal behavior, recovery, mental fitness, spiritual fitness, and physical fitness to educate and motivate both adults and teenagers. Sam, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, and thanks for the wonderful introduction.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Your story is incredible. From where you started, which is kind of a lot of parents' worst nightmare of where you started, right? From the age of 12,
Yes.
to where you are now, which is just this enormous transformation where you've taken something and turned it into helping thousands, millions of people, right? So share us your story. Tell it to us.
Yeah, I like to say that I was able to take my mess and turn it into a message.
Nice.
You know,
Oh, I like
I
that.
don't want to go into a long-winded story, so I'll just kind of give you the Cliff Notes version. But growing up, I was full of anxiety. I didn't know it was anxiety at the time. I never
Mm,
really felt like I fit in anywhere. The way I felt about myself, I wasn't smart, I wasn't funny, I wasn't popular, I wasn't handsome, I wasn't athletic, I wasn't charming. I don't know what other people thought about me, but growing up, I was always really concerned about what I thought you thought about me.
yeah.
I realized when I took that drink, all those feelings went away. There was no more depression. There was no more anxiety. And at the end of the day, once that drink was in me, I didn't really care what you thought about me. Now, I
Mm,
didn't know that I had the ism. I had alcoholism. I didn't realize that until a little bit later on in life. But looking back, I can see the alcoholic and addiction tendencies
mm,
growing up, just from the progressive nature of the way everything happened. My first drink at 12, my first cigarette at 13, my first time I smoked weed was 14, prescription pills at 16, ecstasy at 17, powder cocaine at 19 and 20. And then I tried a geographical cure. I grew up in New Jersey, and I figured that all of my problems were situational, people, places, and things. If I can
mm,
get away from these people that are doing these things in
mm.
these places, that Sam will be just fine. So I left New Jersey and I moved to Virginia, where I still live today with my wife and two kids. And the problem is, when I got down here, everywhere I went, there I was. Changing my location did not change what the real problem was, which was right here. I've been addicted to a lot of things. I was a pack of Newports a day smoker for a long time, a wake and bake weed smoker for a long time, prescription pills, ecstasy, cocaine. But at the end of the day, it was never about going up or going down. It was never about getting really high or really low. I just did not want to be right here.
Mm,
It wasn't
mhm.
anti-anxiety medication. It wasn't anti-pain medication. It was all anti-SAM medication.
Oh,
I was so uncomfortable in my own skin that I didn't know how to wake up or go to bed without taking something on a daily basis.
mhm.
Eventually, the progressive nature of addiction is that you will do more to receive the same results, to get the same high, but you will also do more risky behavior to achieve that goal. And
Mm,
unfortunately, that led to an accidental overdose in 2013, where I almost lost my life. After that, I had a long bout of recovery. But the problem is, when somebody that suffers from addiction starts to get well, we automatically forget how bad things were. And that's what happened to me. And I had a relapse in 2015. My addiction took me a place where I didn't want to go. I got in a little bit of trouble, ended up spending 30 days in jail. And then that's when I decided, okay, enough is enough. So I decided to write a book just to share my story. Hopefully it can help somebody out. I shared my story in a school one day. And when I stepped off of that stage, that was the best high I ever had. And I didn't know how, I didn't know where, I didn't know when. I just knew that I needed to do that again.
mm,
So I quit my full-time job as the assistant fitness director at One Life Fitness to pursue my speaking career. Speaking was going really well. I was traveling all across the country, standing on stage, helping hundreds of thousands of teens that were able to relate to my story. And then unfortunately, COVID hit.
Yeah.
And, I was not immune to the disaster that is 2020. It shut my business down. So now I'm pivoting to a virtual platform, and I've started personal training again, offering personal training in person and online. And I also am putting together a youth mentorship program that will be ready soon, because I'm a huge fan of peer support. There's so much power and two broken people sharing their story of recovery with each other, whether that recovery is from suicidal ideology, depression, anxiety, eating disorder, addiction, pornography, whatever it is. There's power in those two people working their problems out together. And I always tell parents, your kids might need somebody to talk to. They don't have to talk to you, but they have to talk to somebody. And
Yes.
there's going to be some kids somewhere that will relate to me and my story and the way that I was able to overcome it. And if I can help that person learn from my mistakes so they don't have to make their own, then everything that I've went through is all worth it.
That's amazing. That is an incredible story. And the fact that you were able to take something, I mean, so beyond low and turn it into something so amazing that you can, you're going to be able to save kids' lives because they're going to hear your story and turn around. And I know from a parent perspective, if we see our kids, a lot of us are terrified they're going to get caught up in something like this, or we already know they are because, like I said, I have talked to a ton of teens, and the idea of drinking and marijuana and smoking, mostly Juuls now, is like, well, everyone does it. Like, that's the attitude they have. Everyone does it. And now it's, marijuana is legal in a lot of states. So it's like, so what's the big deal? So as a parent, you're like, I know they're not supposed to do that because that seems bad, but what am I supposed to do and how do I talk to them about it? So what advice do you have for us if we're in that situation?
I would say don't focus so much on what they're doing versus why they're doing it. Okay. Whether it's marijuana or Juuls or alcohol, that is merely a symptom of the problem.
Mm.
We were talking before this, and I said, when I was in the middle of my, hardcore alcoholism, alcohol was not my problem. It was the absence of alcohol that really aggravated my condition. Alcohol made me feel normal. So when you took it away, there was a really big problem right here in my gut, in my soul, in my heart, in my mind. And alcohol was the solution to that problem that was inside. So when you took that away, I needed to find a way to fix that. And the way that I fixed that was with spiritual fitness, mental fitness, and physical fitness. Those are my three pillars of recovery. Those are the three pillars that keep me grounded. And it's very important to keep all three in succession at all times, because that's my three-legged chair. And if you take away one leg of a three-legged chair, it becomes unstable. If you take away one of my components, it becomes unstable.
Mm-hmm.
And that happened to me during this quarantine. I wasn't able to go to the gym as much. I wasn't able to go to church. I wasn't able to go to meetings of recovery. And for a while there in the middle of this quarantine, I was unstable until I realized what was going on. I was able to pivot, make the adjustments, and get back on track. So it's not so much that your kid is smoking weed, it's why are they smoking weed? Is there an underlying medical condition? Are they smoking weed because they're depressed? Or
That's
is
a
their
big one.
depression a symptom of them smoking weed? Which came first, the chicken or the egg? Well, the only real way to find that out is with clinical diagnosis and removing the variable, which is marijuana, so we can get a clear understanding of what's going on. Are they depressed? Are they full of anxiety? Is there a certain level of uncomfort of social interaction with other people? And that's the only way they know how to do that. Once we get to the root cause of what the problem is, then we can start to work on the solution. And that would incorporate not only taking away the variable, the Juul, the marijuana, the alcohol, but also working with a mentor, a coach, a counselor, your pastor, your spiritual advisor, to get to the root cause and fix those problems so you can learn to be comfortable in your own skin and not have to rely on a substance to feel better.
Yeah. So Sam, one of the things when you're saying remove the variable, I've warning signs going in my head because I see, parents saying, forbidding it or saying no more, going through their rooms and taking it out of their drawers and things like that, which I've seen a lot of people do because you're like panicked. That tends to backfire because I feel like that ends up really creating a rift between the parent and teen, losing that trust. So how do you recommend we take and start removing that variable without having that issue between us and our teen where we're harming the relationship and we're still able to get to the root of it?
You have to have the plan in place. It's not just taking this away and yelling at them. It's sitting down and asking them, why are you doing this? And if you have an honest heart-to-heart conversation, they'll probably tell you, well, okay, we're going to take this away, but once a week, we're going to start meeting, with this person. And again, whether that's your counselor, your coach, or you, or me, or somebody of that nature, it's having that follow-up structure in place. Okay. You're doing it because you're bored. Okay. What do you want to do in replace of this? Do we need to buy you a guitar and get you lessons? Do we need to start horseback riding? Do we need to get a gym membership? Do we need to go hiking once a week? There needs to be something to replace that. And one of the best things that you can do as a parent is lead by example and jump on board with whatever your child's doing and do that with them.
Yeah, that's amazing to be able to say, okay, I'm with you on this and I understand that this is tough. I mean, they're doing it, they become addicted, just even with the behavior of it's addictive, right? Their peers are doing it. I talk to a lot of people where they go and they hang out with all their friends are doing it. So they don't want to, they want to fit in. So they start doing it that way, right? So it's being able to understand and have enough strength in who you are. But as a parent, to be able to come and say, we're going to do this together. This is not you go fix this. This is let's us fix this and work together on this. I really, really think that that's a great way to address that.
Well, and it's not only, and you've brought it up seven times, multiple times, that, a lot of times they see their friends doing it, they see their peers doing it. But a lot of times they also see their parents doing it, and it's
Yeah,
not to take a shot at anybody. There's nothing wrong with going home and having a glass of wine after work if you've had a
that's
long
good.
day. But if that's something that you do consistently day after day after day, there might be young people in your home that are watching you do this. And maybe I got my first cigarette from my dad. No offense to my dad, he was a good guy, but if I didn't see him smoking, I probably never would have picked up my first cigarette, or I would have picked it up later in life. So learned behavior is everywhere, and it goes positive and negative. So if your child's watching you come home every day and run to the cabinet to take a pill or a drink, that's going to be what they learn. If they watch you come home every day and sit down and do a yoga class on YouTube, or go to your home gym to work out, that's going to be what they learn. So that learned behavior goes both ways.
Yeah. And I guess if you're doing that and you want to teach your teen the right thing, that's a great opportunity to say, okay, maybe I need to find a healthier way to manage my own stuff, right? If we're turning to some of these things, we're not only teaching our teens, but we're getting in very unhealthy habits as well. So, being able, I think having kids definitely is an enormous mirror thrown in your face all the time. Like you can't hide anything.
No, and it starts at a young age. I've got a 3.5-year-old, and he sees daddy waking up in the morning and pouring a cup of coffee. He goes, "What's that? I want some too." And we're just talking coffee.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
not talking scotch on the rocks. It's coffee.
Right.
So
Coffee.
that learned behavior starts at a
Yeah.
very, very young age. But he also sees me working out in the garage, and he says, "Daddy, can I go work out with you in the garage?" And even if that's just him playing with the bands in there, or picking up a little 2.5-pound plate and acting like he's working out, that's another positive learned behavior that he's seeing, because that's what daddy's doing.
Right. And one of the reasons that I think both of us are really focused on adolescence in that time frame, is because that's when our brain is creating the most connections. And so if they're creating connections that are tied to drinking and smoking and doing these things, those are going to be even harder to overcome because they've been really set in place during adolescence. So this is the best time to teach them healthy habits. So those are the connections and kind of their defaults, rather than these other negative ways of dealing with their emotions and their feelings and kind of drowning out things, right?
Exactly.
So Sam, you were talking about your mentorship program. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, and how, if parents are interested, how they can find you?
Yes, so I haven't launched it yet. I'm in the process of putting it together. And what it is it's 12 chapters. We would be doing a 6-week program, 2 chapters a week, and they're short online chapters. It could be a 5-minute read, it could be a 3-minute video, because these kids are already so overwhelmed and spending so much screen time already. I don't want the mentorship program to feel like work. I want them to look forward to going to, oh, I wonder what the next chapter was, because this one really hit home for me because I feel like that too. And we're going to talk about things like, anxiety and, different ways to deal with it. Certain things about how, how you're feeling inside. I'd say one of my favorite chapters is probably watch what you put in your body. And when I say that, most people assume that I'm talking about food. And yes, while what you eat has a huge impact on how you feel physically and mentally, I'm not just talking about food. I'm talking about social media. What are you looking for? What are you looking at when you scroll through your feed? Are you constantly scrolling through everybody's highlight reel and comparing your insides to their outsides?
Yeah.
What are you watching on TV? For me, being in long-term recovery, I can't watch movies like Scarface and Blow and watch people sitting there doing drugs and drinking. It has an effect on me. I can't refer to myself as a spiritual person and drive around and listen to a rapper sell crack on the radio and talking about disrespecting women. What are you putting in your body? What are you listening to? What are you looking at? What are you reading? What are you watching on the news? Unfortunately, for a while, I became victim of it too, in putting on the news and listening to the coronavirus numbers and watching the death numbers go up like a ticker on NASDAQ. That was not healthy for me. So I had to watch what I was putting in my body, and I had to turn off the news. I had to delete my social media apps for a while. I had to put on some positive music. I had to listen to a positive, inspirational, motivational podcast or YouTube video. So I'd say that's probably, one of my favorite chapters that we'd be going over in the youth mentorship program. So it would be 6 weeks, 1 Zoom call a week, 2 chapters a week. And just kind of, getting to the root cause of why are you feeling the way that you're feeling, and how can we give you some tangible tools for life, to move forward one day at a time so you can feel better about yourself and, how you're living.
Right. And I think a really key point of this is you're working with the teens because it needs to be their decision to do this. And I
Yes.
think a lot of parents want to go, okay, we got to cut off social media. We got to cut off what you're watching. We got to cut off this. And it becomes this, I'm controlling you. I'm making you do this. They're not wanting to do it, which means they're just going to find ways around it. Right.
Yeah.
It all of a sudden becomes more desirable to them. They're a lot smarter than we are when it comes to technology. So they're going to find a way. They always find a way. So if we're just saying no and not getting to the root, not getting them on board and motivating them, not getting, to the point where they understand and it's their decision, we're not teaching or helping them. We're actually making matters worse. Right.
Yes, and there's going to be, obviously, it would be the parent's decision to sign their child up for a mentorship program. So I would have a pre-call with the parent, and then I would also have a pre-call with the potential, team that I'd be working in. And if they don't want to work with me, we're not doing it, because it's going to be, unremarkable for them and for me. It's like an alcoholic being forced to go to a meeting just to get his boss or his wife off their back. They might stay sober for a couple of weeks, but once the heat is off, they're going to go right back to doing what they're doing. So, it has to be their decision to want to take steps to better themselves. And that's what it's all about, is taking steps to better themselves. Let's work on some of these life skills that you're not learning in the classroom.
Right, right. And from a parent's perspective, you can get to that place if they're not there. That's really requires the empathy, the listening, the encouragement, all of that, so that your teens are feeling like, okay, I can do something. And I've got mom and dad supporting me doing this, right? This is about me getting better, not fixing me because I'm broken, right? So it's like about growing. So
can I jump in really quick?
Please do.
So it's funny you say the word empathy. Are you familiar with Simon Sinek?
Yes, very much.
So he has a brief moment where he talks about empathy, and he says, we've all had that boss that walks into your office and say, hey, your numbers are down for the 3rd quarter in a row. If you don't pick them up, you're fired. Right. That person's not going to be very motivated to come back to work. Versus the empathetic version, which would be, hey, I've noticed your numbers are down for 3 quarters in a row. Is everything okay? Is there a problem at home? Is there something I can do to help you? And it's the same with your kid. Hey, I noticed you got another C on a test. If you do that again, you're grounded. they're not going to be very motivated to want to do better.
Mm-mm.
Hey, I noticed that you got another C. Is something bothering you? Are you
Yeah.
having problems in school? Is there an issue with your teacher in the way that you're learning? Do we need to change something? Do we need to get you a tutor? That would be the empathetic approach.
Mm-hmm. And that is an enormous, enormous way to strengthen your relationship, to empower your kids. And I love that. Thank you for sharing that. So how do they find you? What's your website?
So SamAnthonySpeaks.com. If they're interested in the coaching, whether it's virtual training, in-home training, or just being notified when the youth mentorship program is available, SamAnthonySpeaks.com/coaching, or just click on the coaching link. There's a contact form that you can fill out, and I'll put you on my list to be notified, or contact you to talk about personal training if that's something you're interested as well. You can find me across all social media platforms. It's Sam Anthony Lucania or Sam Anthony Speaks, depending on which platform you're on. And my social media links are also at the bottom of my website.
And I'll include them all with this as well, so everyone can find you. So any parting words of encouragement for us parents?
I always say that you're only as sick as your secrets. You are only as sick as your secrets. Your kids do not have to talk to you, but they have to talk to someone. So I would definitely encourage you, if there's something going on with your teen and they won't open up to you, find somebody that they can open up to. And I will say that mentorship and counseling is a lot like dating. We've all been on a bad date before. We didn't stop dating after that. We continued to date until we found somebody that we can relate to. It's the same thing with mentorship, peer support, and counseling. I've been to a bad counselor before, or we just didn't mesh. We did not connect. Our relationship did not hit it off. I didn't stop counseling. I went and found another one until I found one that worked. So don't automatically cut off the idea that counseling or mentorship doesn't work just because you had one bad experience. Okay. Make sure that you give it a couple tries and find somebody that you can relate with, so this person can build a long-term relationship and get the help that they need.
That is so important. Your teen has to trust them, and feel like they're on their side for them to share. So that's beautiful. So Sam, thank you so very, very much for jumping on. I really appreciate this. And your story is just so incredible, and very inspiring and very encouraging, because there is hope and we can get through this.
Thank you very much. I like to say that God took the ugliest and darkest parts of my life and didn't just fix them. Somehow he managed to turn them into something beautiful.
It's amazing how that happens. I love it. All right. Talk to you soon.
Thanks.
Bye, Sam.
Bye.